Hey there! In this Programmer Reviews Programming Games video, we'll take a look at the Magic Circle. Before we go more into it, let me preface this by saying this game doesn't really have a lot to do with programming. So why am I reviewing it then? The reason is I was recommended this game as a game that involves programming, or at least as a game that appeals to those interested in programming or programming games. So, with that in mind, let's see what the Magic Circle is about. At its core, the Magic Circle is an options menu simulator. You walk around in a 3D world and you change settings. Well, it's actually more of a game design game, I guess. In the Magic Circle, you're put inside an unfinished fantasy adventure type game. The gameplay mostly consists of some light puzzle solving elements, which you do by modifying the game itself. Pretty much any NPC in the game, with a few exceptions, can be captured and then changed to suit your purposes. For example, to stop an enemy from attacking you, you can take away its attack so it can't hurt you anymore, or you can change its enemy to be something else than you. As you capture these NPCs, you can remove their attributes. For example, if you remove an NPC's ability to walk, you gain a walking property. Removing a melee attack, on the other hand, gains you a melee attack property. You can then reassign these properties to any other NPC you encounter. This kind of taking and reassigning of properties from one NPC to another is how most of the game works. Generally, the puzzles you encounter require you to find out what properties on which NPC would allow you to proceed through the area. Let's say that you need to get across a chasm, but you can't quite jump that far. Perhaps you can take an NPC and assign a floating movement to it. And then you can place that NPC in the middle of the chasm and use it as a platform to jump over. This attribute and property editing is probably the aspect of the game that could appeal to those interested in programming. However, it can't really be called programming in the slightest. You're simply changing properties, and yeah, while changing an NPC from walking into flying, it sort of reprograms it, but you don't really have any kind of precise control over any of that. There isn't any kind of, sequential logic in there, in the sense of first do A, then do B, and then do C, which I would say is really the most basic thing that you would have in any kind of programming environment. Later in the game, you do get to design your own game of sorts, but even at that point there isn't really anything programmery. You get to place some NPCs into the game, and some items and other things like that, but again, you're effectively just doing light game design type of stuff. In between these light game editing tasks, you explore the game world. As you do so, the game's narrator both acts as a tutorial when needed and as a storyteller when not. The story itself is about a game that's been a long time in development and is about the conflicts in the artistic vision between members of the development team. The game world itself has many things to see and do. Those willing to explore it a bit more are rewarded with developer commentary tapes, which provide further insights into the story. There are also some retro-style areas of the world, which had a pretty cool look to them as well. Since there really isn't much to say about the programming aspects of the game, let's just go straight to the scoring for this. So first, is the Magic Circle fun to play, despite not really having many programming aspects to it? The game starts on a quite high note. The storyline, the voice acting, and the humor, at least for me, they really kind of grabbed me right into it, and I was really sort of excited to discover what the game has to offer. So you run off into the world, taking parts of NPCs, capturing other NPCs, and you give them silly names. I had a rock NPC with me, who I of course had to call Dwayne Johnson. I mean, come on, what else? So you and your entourage of NPCs with silly names, they tour the game world, solving puzzles, and then it just kind of gets boring. What was first intriguing storyline, it kind of fell flat, and it didn't really end up being much that interesting after about halfway through the game. There's a decent amount of variety in the NPCs and the attributes that you can change, but most of the time it's kinda straightforward, and it feels like a lot more could have been achieved with the ingredients the game had. Despite the promising start and decent variety, towards the end of the game I was more hoping that it would just be over at that point. Because of this, the Magic Circle only gets 2 out of 5 for fun. It really starts more around a 4, but around the middle, maybe a bit past that, it just kind of fizzles out. This does kind of depend on whether you enjoy the storyline or not though. If you happen to find it interesting after the midpoint, then you might get some more enjoyment out of the game than I did. So what about the programming aspects of the game? Well, you probably saw this coming at this point, but the Magic Circle gets a 0 out of 5 for practicality. The game really has nothing to do with programming, and I thought that I might not get to give a 0 to any game I was reviewing in this series. The Magic Circle it's not really a programming game. It's more a game design puzzle with particular emphasis put on the story. It has its moments, but overall I found the game to be kind of average. It's also a bit short. I managed to finish it in about 3 to 4 hours, and for a game with a price of $20, that number might not be very impressive unless you end up really enjoying the game itself. This is not a bad game, but it does feel like it could have been a lot better. The story and game mechanics are definitely fairly unique and interesting, at least for the first half of the game, so if you like the concepts of those, it could be worth a try, but only if it's discounted. Since the story can be a bit of a hit or miss, I find it a bit hard to recommend this at the full $20 price. If you're intrigued about the concept though, then there is a demo available on Steam which you can check, and it should give you a decent idea of whether the full game is worth it for you or not. Alternatively, if you're looking for a somewhat similar game but with actual programming elements to it, I would suggest taking a look at Glitch Space instead. You can check out my review of it for a deeper look, and a link to it should be showing up on the screen right about now. In addition, there's also a list of my other programming game reviews if you're interested in checking those out. Alright, I think that's it for this video. More programming game reviews are gonna be coming up on this channel in the future, so stick around if that's something you like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.